Hello, in this clip we're going to look at specifically how to acquire the data from CERS, or the California Educator Reporting System. And so we're going to come over from CAASPP to the little tab here that says CERS. Now for the purposes of our little demo here, we're going to look at the sandbox, but for most teachers you're going to click on the CERS and then you're going to be prompted to log in with your TOMS login, which is the same login credentials for all of the CAASPP features that you would use. So here, once we're in, you may have already noticed that you're always going to be defaulted to the most recent assessments. Now when we're looking at the target data, the thing to point out is that you only can get the target data for the summative assessments. So this isn't going to be a feature you're looking at for the IABs or any of the other assessments you may use. So I'm going to go ahead and come to select assessments, and then I'm going to find the summative assessment. So in this example, we'll look at the math one. So I'm going to go ahead and click grade 5 math summative. I'm going to get rid of that other LPAC one there. And now that I'm here looking at the, again, only summative, I can scroll down, and right here where you're probably accustomed to toggling between the results and how you're viewing those, as opposed to looking at by student, I'm going to click on target report. So when I look on target report, what I want to make sure we're all understanding is the fact that this is the closest to, in terms of standards, in terms of how did your students perform on a cluster or a group of standards. Now this is, again, a demo, and so we can see that it gives me insufficient data. So we're going to look at some other data, but essentially I want to make sure we understand how to do that. So first step, we came over here. We selected from the assessments. If you don't see the summative assessment, you can come to select assessments. Remember that default is most recent. And once you've selected the summative assessment for ELA or for math, you're going to come to where it says view, and as opposed to filtering by student, we're looking at the target report. So now let's look over at another report. And so this is one that has data that is able to show us, and I want to make sure we draw our attention to two things. So this is a math report, so you're only going to be able to get the target data for claim 1 when we talk about math. If you're looking at ELA, you will be able to look at the target data for each of the various claims in language arts. Now when I look here, there's two columns I want to draw our attention to. The first is to be able to say the performance relative to the entire test, and the other one is to say whether our students were or were not meeting that particular target. So one of the things that people might right away notice is that, of course, if most of the time when you talk about my students performed above, then of course that was probably how they performed better comparison to the entire test in its entirety. But if you scroll down, and I'm going to do that now, you'll notice in some cases you may have had students that were performing near or meeting standard, but that still was better in comparison to how they performed on the entire test in other subsections. So I think that this is probably going to give us the most nitty-gritty detailed information if you're wanting in terms of how did my students perform on an individual or particular concept or standard. The closest you're going to get is the target scores, and those are only available for the summative assessments. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out.